Yo, what is up YouTube? We are back with another deck profile, and this week we got a really fun one. I am really loving this archetype, and that is going to be the Hisuian Goodra VSTAR deck. I really like this, it's so much fun. Let's get right on into it. So we're going to start off the profile with 4 copies of Comfy from Lost Origin. We are using this for the flower selecting ability. Once during your turn, if this is in the active spot, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them in the lost zone and put the other one into your hand. So this is like our draw engine. It reminds me a lot of like the draw engine from the Celebrations Mew. It reminds me a lot like that, except a lot better because of some of the other cards we have being Mirage Gate. Now we pair this with Colress's Experiment to help us get more cards into the lost zone so we can hit the requirement on Mirage Gate. So we can start setting up and powering up our Hisuian Goodra VSTARs as well as our Radiant Greninjas. Now for our main attacker, we play 3 copies of Hisuian Goodra VSTAR. This is a dragon type VSTAR, so it has no weakness, no resistance. It does have a whopping 3 retreat cost though, so that is something to keep in mind. It has the attack Rolling Iron. It does 200 for 1 water, 1 metal, and 1 colorless. The effect on the attack is, during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 80 less damage from your opponent's attacks after applying weakness and resistance. Now why is this good? Because a lot of decks in the format right now don't have a huge unlimited damage output. Some decks do, like Hiram VMAX and Dialga VSTAR, but not all of them. So like let's say Arceus VSTAR, if Arceus was to hit into my Goodra with a double turbo on, it would do 180, but because of the 80 less, they're only going to end up doing 100 damage. Now Goodra does have a really powerful V-Star ability, and that is Moisture Star. During your turn, you may heal all damage from this Pokemon. So let's say your opponent got this down to like 20 or 10 HP. You can hit them with that Moisture Star, heal it all off, and then start doing some more Rolling Iron. Very fun card. Not the best. It reminds me a lot of the new, it's basically like the new Duraludon VMAX. Then following up the Hisuian Goodra VSTAR, we play 3 copies of Hisuian Goodra V. We do not play 4, which kind of looks sketchy to begin with, but I never needed the 4th one. I only really need 3, because your opponent's not knocking these guys out easy. So once they do hit into them, you can just build up another one, because once they get through 3 VSTARs, they win the game. So you essentially just want one of these. If you have them prized, hopefully you can take them in your prize cards before you lose the game. We are just playing through the attacks aren't really that relevant. The first one is Slip and Trip for 1 water, 1 metal. It does 60 damage. Your opponent switches their active Pokemon with one of their bench. And then it has the attack Rolling Shell for 140 damage for 1 water, 1 metal, and 1 colorless. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. So basically it's like a mini Rolling Iron. So the last Pokemon we are choosing to play is Radiant Greninja. It is a water type, which is good. We actually can attack with this because we do naturally play water type energies. It has the ability Concealed Cards. You must discard an energy card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw 2 cards. This is very good because we do play Melanie in this deck. So we can use Concealed Cards discarding a water, and then use Melanie to attach it to our Hisuian Goodra V or VSTAR, so we're not reliant on the Mirage Gates. So for stadiums, we are playing 2 stadiums, both of them being different. The first one is going to be the Crystal Cave. Once during each player's turn, that player may heal 30 damage from each of their Metal and Dragon Pokemon. Since Hisuian Goodra is a Dragon Pokemon, we get a heal 30. That is very good. If like our opponent puts Zigzagoon pings on us, maybe sprinkles a bit of damage with Sableye, we can just heal this off. It's basically just a counter stadium, so we don't get pathed, as well as a little bit of heal. And then we play the 1 training court. I think any Lost Zone or Lost like engine deck that plays Radiant Greninja should play at least 1 training court. I think it's a really good inclusion in any Lost type deck, and that's why we play the 1. I might go to a second Crystal Cave, but I just think this is so strong, especially with Radiant Greninja, that I like the 1-1 split. So for supporters, we are playing 4 copies of Colress's Experiment. This is, I would say, one of the main supporters we play. We only play 3, but this is probably I would say the most important one. Colress's experiment says, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 of them into your hand, and put the other 2 in the lost zone, or the other cards in the lost zone. This does say other cards and not other 2, so that means, let's say you only have 3 cards left in deck. You use Colress's experiment, all 3 of them would go to your hand. So that is one ruling just to keep in mind. This is very good because it works in combination with Comfy to power up our Mirage Gate, so we actually can use them and start attacking with Hisuian Goodra VSTAR and Radiant Greninja. We play a full 4 copies because we ideally want to hit this on our opening turn so we can play it as our first supporter, that or Melanie. And the next supporter is going to be Melanie, a very, very good card. I'm so happy I can start playing these again. The effect on Melanie is attach a water energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon V, then draw 3 cards. It's a lot like Welder back in the end of the Sun and Moon block. This is very good because we aren't reliant on the Mirage Gates, as I've said before. So we can actually, if we go first, we can actually theoretically attack on our second turn. I've done that a bunch, so we're not always relying on the getting 7 in the lost zone so we can start Mirage Gating. Very good. I used to play 3, but I made some cuts to the list, and now I'm on the full 4 because this, I think, is more important than Colress in the earlier turns if we can have the Hisuian Goodra active before Mirage Gate, or if we have to use the Mirage Gate, then that's why we play 4 Colresses, so we have the equal chance of running into Colress or Melanie in the first turns of the game. And the last supporter we play is 3 copies of Boss's Orders. Very generic supporter card, you probably heard it and seen it a bunch of times. Basically, we want to hit into multi-prize Pokemon, so we don't want our opponent hiding behind one prize Pokemon. So what I've had in some games is I've bossed up a multi-prize Pokemon, let's say a V-Star, hit into it for 200, then they retreat. So what we can do is we can do boss up a V-Star, hit into it, boss up another V-Star, hit into it, and then use Radiant Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken to hit both V-Stars for a double KO and take 4 prizes. So that's why I think boss is very, very important in this list. So we're going to start off our item cards with 4 copies of Mirage Gate. You can only play this card if you have 7 or more cards in the Lost Zone. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards of different types, attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. Basically, this allows us to power up our Hisuian Goodra V-Star, as well as Radiant Greninja, since they attack for a different color energy. We play the full 4 simply because we want to use this as much as possible, as soon as possible. We are following up Mirage Gate with 4 copies of Battle VIP Pass. You can only play this card on your first turn. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. That is very good because once it's past our first turn, and we use a Colress's experiment or use Flower Selecting on Comfy, and we see one of these, we can just automatically discard it or Lost Zone it since it's a dead card. That's why I like playing the full 4. I also think any Lost Zone deck should play a full 4 Battle VIP Pass just because it's free fodder for the Lost Zone in the later stages of the game. Since we're playing lots of Comfies and Radiant Greninja, we want a way to move them out of the active and reset their abilities. So we are playing 4 copies of Scoop Up Net. Put one of your Pokemon that isn't a V or GX into your hand, discard all cards attached. So we have a Comfy in the active, we can Scoop Up Net it, then put it back onto the bench, retreat into it, and then use the Flower Selecting again, as well as once we have our Hisuian Goodras powered up, we kind of just want to get our Radiant Greninjas and Comfies off the board. So we can grab it with the Scoop Up Net and then discard it with a Ultra Ball, or just keep it in the hand, honestly. We are also playing 3 copies of Ultra Ball. You can only use this card if you discard 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is the only way to search out our Hisuian Goodra V-Stars, but in the early game it can also search out our Comfies, Goodra Vs, and Radiant Greninjas if we don't have a Battle VIP Pass. We can also discard excess materials from our hand in the later stages of the game just so we don't get rock sand into garbage cards or moneyed into garbage cards. We also play 2 copies of Switch. Since we are moving our Comfies around a lot, we just need to get them in and out of the active and switch them with one another. So we do play 2. This is kind of low for most Comfy Lost Zone decks, but since we only want to use a few Flower Selectings and then a few Colress's experiment, after that we kind of just don't need our Comfies anymore because they are just dead weight on the board considering they can get knocked out pretty easy. So we kind of just want to use them a few times, scoop up net them, and this helps us move them around to get into that position. We are also playing 2 copies of Ordinary Rod. This is a very good card because it gets back our Pokemon and our energies. The effect on Ordinary Rod is shuffle up to 2 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck, shuffle up to 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. So basically we can scoop up net the Comfies, use an Ultra Ball to discard them, and then use Ordinary Rod so our opponents can't use Echoing Horn onto the Comfies to then take some free prizes. So that's why we play 2, as well as we can get back energies to use them with Mirage Gate. We're also playing 2 copies of Big Charm. The Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 30 HP. So this brings our Hisuian Goodra VSTAR all the way up to 300 HP, when since we're tanking hits, an extra 30 HP can mean we get to live an extra turn, and that one turn could mean we could win the game. And then the final trainer card we are playing is 1 copy of Air Balloon. The retreat cost of the Pokemon this card is attached to is 2 less. So basically we attach it to a Comfey just so we can retreat into another Comfey. We are playing 1 because once the Comfeys are useless and we don't need them anymore, we don't really need Air Balloons, because we just want to attach Big Charms to our Hisuian Goodra, so that's why we play the 1. You can go to a second copy, which I have played with a second copy, but I found the second copy isn't really that useful, especially later on in the game. For energies, we are playing 6 copies of basic water energies. Now this is the energy that we do play the most of, simply because we do need more water than other energies, so we can attack with Moonlight Shuriken on the Radiant Greninja, as well as we want to discard these naturally to then use Melanie to power up our Hisuian Goodra VSTARs. We are also playing 4 copies of Metal Energy. Hisuian Goodra VSTAR attacks for 1 water, 1 colorless, and 1 metal. We also need 2 different types of energies so we can activate Mirage Gate to its full effect. And then the last energy we play, and the last 4 cards in the list, is 4 copies of Capture Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides a colorless energy. Both Hisuian Goodra VSTAR and Radiant Greninja have 1 colorless energy in their attack cost, so we can attach this to that to help pay for it. The effect on Capture Energy is when you attach this card from your hand to one of your Pokemon, search your deck for a basic Pokemon, put it onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. So we can attach this early game to Hisuian Goodra V to search out another Hisuian Goodra V or another Radiant Greninja, or vice versa. As well as during the later stages of the game, we can just discard this with concealed cards, because concealed cards says you have to discard an energy. It doesn't specify a basic, so you can discard special energy with that as well. So it's never really a dead card in your hand. So that is going to be the Hisuian Goodra VSTAR list. What did you guys think of it? Let me know in the comment section below, as well as let me know if you guys are going to play this deck at your weeklies, or maybe even take it to a regional. If you would like these cards or any other cards for your deck, you can also check out the homies over at Deck Out Gaming. You can use my promo code YBM Cards for 5% off at checkout. That saves 5% off the entire store. It helps you out by saving you a little bit of money, as well as it helps the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.